2 weeks before the contents of this video, I was contacted by Kyle Connor from the YouTube channel Autospec. He wanted to ask if I wanted to join his race across America, all the way from Seattle to Boston in different electric cars. I of course said yes, jumped on a plane and landed in Seattle a few days before the race. And here is the entire story. We arrived at this Best Western hotel room. After I came off the plane, I rented a car through Hertz, and I really wanted to drive an electric car, and I really asked, and I even pre-ordered an electric car. This is the day before I arrived in the United States of America, and I just got a mail from Hertz about my EV rental. So let's take a look at the email and see if it's understandable. 24 hours until your EV trip. Here's what you need to know for a seamless pickup tomorrow and a one-of-a-kind EV driving experience. Bookmark Hertz this webpage prep with a short how-to videos and other EV resources that you may need before your trip on the road. So this webpage, which was linked in the mail, gives me information about how to find fast charging stations and information about all the different EVs they offer, I assume. I still don't know which EV I'll get since I chose the EV Managers Special. It says here, the 80% rule, electric vehicle batteries work best from 80 to 20% of charge. I would say 20 to 80, but okay. So we're trying to have our EVs at 80% on pickup. Actually kind of impressed so far. Let's see if the pickup experience is as smooth as these instructions suggest. But they didn't have a single electric car for some reason. I asked and asked, but what they could give me is a Volvo XC90. That's a combustion car, of course, but it was given to me at like half the price, really cheap, so I can't complain too much. And I'll drive more than enough EVs on this trip. I hope to meet Mr. Kyle tomorrow or the day after. We will see. I'm super tired. I haven't really slept properly for 3 days, so it is time to get some sleep and see what the day tomorrow brings. I hope to explore around the areas a little bit with the XC90 and then deliver the car early, because I don't need to have it for that long if it's not an electric car. It's not that relevant for this channel, but it's still important to get impressions from other cars. And the XC90 is a pretty nice car, so yeah. Look at the beautiful key though. It is leather. Super nice, looks super nice. This is the nicest key I have ever held, I think. That's a nice touch. And I got some water. I think this is water. And of course, American Sprite, which is much better than European Sprite. Everybody knows that, so that's a must-have. Ten-second review of the Volvo XC90, since I did drive the Volvo XC90 as a rental car. First of all, it was a little bit stiff and the road noise was there, which was unexpected for XC90. I don't know the spec of this one, probably the bottom spec, it felt like it. Leather interior, very nice, feels nice, but smells leather. I'm kind of tired of that. I'm getting more and more used to vegan leather or fake leather interiors that look really nice. So I'm a little bit tired of leather interiors, to be honest. And yeah, it just felt a little bit old and slow. But overall, quality-wise,
of the interior was really nice. Before we began the race, some people gathered in this awesome farmhouse, some people gathered at a hotel, but we all came together to eat at the Yard House before we left Seattle. The first days I was an airport shuttle in this old Model S that we actually had in the cross-country race. This was such an awesome car, such an early build, I think 2012 or something. Very early Model S that I got to use as an airport shuttle, and the car is just amazing for being 10 plus years old. I was lucky to be in the BMW i7 with Kyle Connor and Chris, and this was such an amazing car.
Absolutely.
Nothing.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
I have tested it a little bit on this channel before I left, but just an amazing luxury car. But there are some problems, especially when you're trying to bring this car all the way from Seattle to Boston. This car has a DC fast charge counter. This means that once you hit a certain number of kilowatt hours or certain number of charging sessions, it'll throttle the charging of the i7. So we get a worse charging curve, which is exactly what you don't want when you are traveling all the way from Seattle to Boston. And in addition to this DC fast charging throttling that we got, this car is super inefficient. It's just a brick moving all the air. So together this made the car really slow, and we fell behind pretty quickly. And by behind I mean second to last. The Tesla Model S, the old one, was of course behind us. It would have been really embarrassing if they overtook the BMW i7. And we did finish second to last, behind cars that we thought we could keep up with for a longer period of time, for example the Genesis or the EQS. But this car is so inefficient, and this DC fast charging throttling just absolutely sucks. And in my opinion this means bad battery management engineering. It's just such a compromise for a car like this. But we are also probably the first ones that have taken this car across country or even on a super long road trip, because this car will most likely stay in people's garages and be used as an airport shuttle. So on one hand it absolutely sucks because it's bad engineering, and I think that especially the Germans should really over-engineer their cars. On the other hand, this is probably not a problem for most owners of this car. I want to mention that the driver assistance in this BMW i7 is the absolute best I've ever tried. Hands-free driving, eye tracking, and you can use your eyes to move lanes, which is absolutely amazing. I want to talk about charging infrastructure in the United States. It's very different from Europe and especially Norway. Of course, they have had a lot of issues with the charging infrastructure for electric cars in the US, but I feel like it has gotten a lot better. When we were doing the i90 search, we were always able to charge somehow. We did have some derates, we had to move sometimes, but the main issue we found, or I personally noticed, was how far off the highway you need to go to charge sometimes. So I think the US needs highway stops that are super close to the highway with DC fast charging. But aside from that, we were able to charge at both Electrify America, Pilot Flying J, GM Energy, I think, EVgo stations, and also Tesla superchargers, which had the Magic Dock. Since BMW doesn't have Tesla supercharger access in the United States just yet, we could still use the Magic Docks, which I felt like were a really great compromise for those cars. So all in all, good charging experience, I would say better than expected. Some issues, EA has too few stalls, they are too far off the highway, and of course those are infrastructure things that might be super difficult to fix, I don't know. But that's my experience with charging and driving all the way from Seattle to Boston. And I just want to thank the entire Out of Spec team for putting this together, and especially Kyle Connor and Chris, which I drove with, and of course, everyone else that I met along the way. So many cool people that joined on this race, and I had such a blast on this entire trip. Amazing, amazing experience. I want to end this video with some quick car reviews of cars that I tested, and I want to start with the Lucid Air. The Lucid Air felt really, really fast, and this is the range spec model, so I can't imagine what the other ones feel like. It felt snappy, the drivetrain felt almost Tesla-like, it was really responsive and fast. I didn't like the drivetrain tuning for slow driving, parking and stuff like that, and I didn't feel that comfortable in the Lucid Air. So that's my quick review of the Lucid Air. Let's jump over to the Ioniq 6. Ioniq 6, an affordable car, I would say. It was priced similarly to the Model 3 that were in this race. It did almost as good. It has great charging. And from my experience, it felt cheap inside, but this is the base spec model. The sound system wasn't that great, and I feel like you get a much better deal with the Model 3 there, and it did actually do better in this race, and that's most likely due to actually charger positioning, because the Tesla superchargers are closer to the highway. Anyways, I would say it's a good alternative to a Tesla Model 3 if you're into that. Thank you so much for watching. I highly recommend jumping over on the Autospec Motoring channel to watch the 4 episodes on this race. They are long, but they are really in-depth and super interesting to watch. Leave any questions down below and I'll make sure to answer them.